Hey guys, and welcome into the Thursday night edition of Horseshoe Huddle's podcast presented by Sports Illustrated. The Horseshoe guys, I know that's not the typical counterpart I have. Jake Arthur's taken a bit of a leave on the podcast, but we have the great Zack Hicks joining me tonight. Zack, how you doing?
Doing all right. Working on very little sleep this week, but It's just one of those weeks where my day job, I'm going in at 3 a.m. So
Yep.
it's a tough week.
Yep, and I've got kids little kids that want to get up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, so I know the feeling. But yeah, shout out to my wife though; she's the trooper overnight. But we'll make this relatively quick tonight because Zack, as he mentioned, does have to get into work at 3 a.m. tomorrow. But we are here to preview the Los Angeles Rams at the Indianapolis Colts Sunday at Lucas Oil Stadium at 1 p.m. Obviously, the Colts are 1-0, coming off of a frustrating loss to the Seattle Seahawks at home, 28-16. The Rams looked pretty darn good, Zack. They're actually opening up at home against the Chicago Bears on Sunday Night Football in Matthew Stafford's debut. But before we get into the game, I do want to take a look here at the injury report heading into Friday's final day of practice. We will start with the Colts here, Zack. This is a laundry list for week 2, which if you've been following along with the Colts all summer, it's been one injury after another. And the Colts had 7 players that did not practice on Thursday, one of which was Jack Doyle, who was a resting veteran, according to the Colts website. So we will not be worried about him. But the 6 others include linebacker Darius Leonard with an ankle/illness, guard Quentin Nelson dealing with a foot and back injury, which is just terrifying considering how important he is to the offensive line. Yep. Xavier Rhodes still not practicing with a calf injury. Braden Smith, as we know, dealing with, unsurprisingly, a foot injury. Like I have no idea what's going on there in Indianapolis with the feet, but not good. Rookie defensive end Kwity Paye dealing with a hamstring injury, and safety Kari Willis with an illness. Along with those DNPs, we had 3 players limited in practice on Thursday. Mike Strawn with an ankle, Kemoko Toure with a groin. It looks like he's trending in the right direction to play this week. We shall see. And then offensive tackle Eric Fishner working back from the Achilles injury he suffered in late January. The one guy on the Colts' injury report that was a full practice today was defensive end Al-Quadin Muhammad, who was limited on Wednesday but was full today, so it looks like he will play on Sunday. Zack, you flip over to the Rams. I mean, there still hasn't been a full update from Los Angeles at this point, but they had one guy not practice on Wednesday, and that was defensive lineman Sebastian Joseph Day with a knee injury. They had 3 veterans. 2 veterans and a young player sit out with rest on Wednesday in Aaron Donald, Andrew Whitworth, and pass rusher Terrell Lewis. And then limited on Wednesday was defensive lineman Ashawn Robinson with a knee. There, again, have been no updates from the Rams as of Thursday, so I think as Zack and I talked offline prior to the start of this show, we can assume they are pretty darn healthy at this point, which that's terrifying because the Colts are struggling. How concerned are you right now? You know, obviously we still have one more day to see some of these guys get back and practice in full or limited to see if they can go Sunday. But how concerned are you with this injury report right out of the chute after week 1 with the Colts?
Oh, I'm not concerned. No, I'm just kidding. Everyone's concerned, obviously. Could you imagine if it's like,
Yeah, it is what it is.
If you were to name the 5 best overall players in the Colts, have 3 of them not play in this game. No, I'm not concerned. No, I think it's definitely scary to look at that injury report. And, you're already going against a team with Super Bowl aspirations. I mean, obviously every team has Super Bowl aspirations, but, a team that is like right on the cusp of competing for one. They made that big trade for Matthew Stafford. They have 2 of the best defenders in all of football. So going into this matchup, you definitely want to have, all hands on deck. You want to have everybody healthy. So having, your $20 million a year linebacker potentially out, your $20 million a year offensive tackle potentially out, soon to be $20 million a year guard potentially out. It's going to be tough. If I had to completely guess, I mean, this is off pure speculation here, I would guess that Quentin Nelson ends up playing, maybe Leonard, and maybe Fisher, but I would say Kwity Paye is probably going to be out. I mean, 2 straight practices with a hamstring injury. They're probably not going to risk that. Xavier Rhodes, I'm assuming, is definitely almost certainly going to be out, and Braden Smith, I think, is just not trending in the right direction at all. So I feel like Braden Smith's going to be out too, which will lead to Matt Pryor starting at right tackle. I know a lot of people have been saying if Fisher plays, they'll move Davenport over to right tackle, but I think Reich said it the other day that Pryor will be the starter at right tackle if Braden Smith can't go. So, yeah, man.
Poor Carson Wentz. He gets out of Philadelphia dealing with that dumpster fire up front due to injury.
It's similar, though. It reminds me of 2018, and I've seen other people say this, so I don't want to take full credit for it. But 2018, Andrew Luck comes in, and we're all saying Chris Ballard drafted Quentin Nelson and drafted Braden Smith to fix this. And then those first 8 weeks with Costanzo out with an injury and Braden Smith kind of still learning the right tackle position, he was getting killed. He was getting killed, and everything looked bad. And then they they got healthy and found their groove late in the season. But yeah, man, it kind of does feel like that, where Carson Wentz leaves the situation where he's sacked most in the NFL despite playing only 12 games last year. Takes a beating all last year, comes into this situation with one of the best lines in football, and 3 sacks in week 1. The 2 tackles combined to give up 15 pressures in the first game. It's just rough. So hopefully they can get healthy, get on the field, and gel and not have a repeat performance from last week. But, going against Aaron Donald, and you're not going to have a majority of your offensive line either there or at 100%. I think that's definitely a recipe for not good things to happen.
Yeah, it's a little terrifying. I mean, obviously, it was a tough matchup in week 1, just considering what the Seahawks do with their fire blitz package. And they have an improved defensive line, no other way to put it. And that obviously showed in week 1. But you get the be-all, end-all when it comes to defensive line play in Aaron Donald in week 2, and your line is so banged up. If Quentin Nelson doesn't go, Chris Reed can hold his own, no doubt. But you'd rather see Quentin Nelson against Aaron Donald than Chris Reed against Aaron Donald. And that's, Donald moves around a lot, which we'll talk about here in a bit. But, man, it's a mess. And, you and I were kind of talking off air, but I want to touch on this with Darius Leonard. Yes, he had the forced fumble on Sunday against the Seahawks, but he has not practiced this week. He's still dealing with that ankle injury.
And an illness today, too.
And an illness, which we don't want to speculate on.
They said non-COVID. They did come out and say non-COVID.
Okay.
But it was weird seeing both Willis and Leonard on there with illness. And I was like,
it's a little scary.
Does
it obviously would hurt the Colts in the short term, but do you think in the long term it would be best served for Indianapolis to kind of sit Leonard down for a couple weeks, because he did not look good Sunday against the Seahawks. He looked a step or two slow, which that's not his game. And it's not like he magically lost those 2 steps after signing a contract, like a couple people have asked me, but he did not look good Sunday, regardless of the numbers that he put up in the forced fumbles. Do you think it's in the best interest to maybe just sit him down and let him get right?
Yeah, it really depends on how that ankle is responding. I mean, just from our viewing of the game, it looks like that ankle's not looking great.
Right.
But, what maybe he was just second guessing things. I mean, that the offense that they were playing against was very, everything in misdirection, everything to kind of throw off your read. So maybe he just looked a step slow because that offense was just kind of confusing. And, Leonard hadn't played all offseason. But, yeah, man, I don't know. I feel like if it were up to me and it really was that ankle issue, I mean, this year to me, I know I'm a lot different from most Colts fans, but this year to me was always about the evaluation. It really wasn't.
100%.
This wasn't the year for competing for the Super Bowl or even even the playoffs, honestly. I mean, I think they could be a playoff team, but you know what I mean? This year to me wasn't like we're pushing all of our chips in. This was we're going to see what we have before pushing our chips in. So if it comes down to it, I mean, you just gave him the big contract. If his ankle really is giving him issues, I mean, there's no real reason to push it, especially early in the year. It's a long season. So he sat out 3 or 4, I think it was 4 games last year, and he was, perfectly fine down the stretch and had a good season. So, yeah, I mean, if it comes down to it and the ankle really is the reason for what we saw this past weekend, yeah, I mean, you got to shut him down. I just think that's in the best interest of the team.
Yeah, and I'm not exaggerating when I say it is a laundry list with that injury report, but we will see. We will see what it says Friday here. I'm sure you guys will touch on that tomorrow in your what are you calling it now? The Fan Question Friday?
Yeah, fan question Friday.
I
I'm
like
glad that
it.
there's a day of the week that starts with F, so I can get that like.
So
alliteration.
I'm sure you guys will touch on that tomorrow. Whether it's Jake or Andrew that joins you. But I want to move on here, kind of just get into what they're saying from both sides, Colts and Rams, leading into Sunday's matchup. I wanted to touch on some interesting comments that offensive coordinator Marcus Brady had Tuesday about the Rams. He was asked about the impact Jalen Ramsey has on a defensive scheme and how he can take some things away from an offensive standpoint. And he mentioned that Carson Wentz has to, quote unquote, trust his eyes when it comes to Ramsey and the look he's providing. Could you just dive into that a little further and what Brady is trying to say? Because for the casual viewer, it's okay. If Wentz sees Ramsey, that's trusting his eyes. He's in that vicinity. Don't throw there. But what does that mean boiled down from a football standpoint?
Yeah, I think actually the way I took that quote was kind of as Brady critiquing Wentz's week 1 performance with that. Because in the week 1, Wentz played well. Like it was a solid game. Didn't do anything to really lose in the game, but he did hesitate on some throws. And from what I noticed when watching the film, those throws that he hesitated on were the ones where Bobby Wagner was in the area, or that that flat throw to Hines that he should have made near the end of the game. Jamal Adams was one of the guys staring down the flat, so he was kind of avoiding those two players. There was one where he could have had a seam dig shot to Zack Pascal, but he saw Bobby Wagner was closing, and I think that's what caused the hesitation. So I think when you say trust your eyes, it's if that right read is there, don't second guess it because Jalen Ramsey's in the vicinity. If he makes an elite play, he makes an elite play. Make them have to make that elite play to beat you. So if your eyes say, hey, this deep dig's going to be open, it's on Jalen Ramsey's side though, and you see him in the vicinity. Well, hey, if you see that opening, you got to still take that shot. If Jalen Ramsey's going to beat you by being Jalen Ramsey, which in my opinion, I think he's the second best overall defender in all of football, just behind Aaron Donald, which is on the same defense.
Little unfair there, huh?
Yeah, a little bit unfair, but you gotta just trust your reads, and you gotta trust your guys down the field. You really can't hesitate at all, especially in the NFL. You can never hesitate, but you can't hesitate just because of a player's, just because that player is in that vicinity. You gotta trust your reads.
I've heard some people this week, and I'm not going to single them out, but I've heard some people who kind of do what we do, saying that the Colts just need to avoid Ramsey, identify where he's at, and stay away from that side of the field. That sounds, fine and good, face value, but you're handcuffing your offense before you even step out onto the field. Like that, to me, as a play caller, you never want to do that. Like, yes, how great that player is out there, but you can't just avoid him completely, because guess what? Avoiding him completely is him taking away what you're trying to do. So you're handcuffing yourself. You're allowing the Rams in their defensive system to win before you even snap the damn ball. So I'm not saying target whoever is on Ramsey's side every single time, but you can't go into a play and say Ramsey's on the left side of your offense. Okay, I'm going to tie my left arm behind my back and only go right. Like that, you're handcuffing yourself. You're taking away what could work, and it's a real hindrance to your offense. Speaking of identifying a defender, though, Frank Reich and Marcus Brady also said, we need to know where Aaron Donald is at all times. And Marcus Brady said, we're going to try and game plan around him as much as you can. Teams have tried that every year of Donald's career at this point, and it simply doesn't work. He's not as good a run defender as he is a pass rusher. I think we're all in agreement there. Maybe not as bad a run defender as PFF or ESPN's run defense rate tries to project him to be. But how can the Colts try and negate Donald on Sunday as best you can for the 3-time Defensive Player of the Year?
You can't.
Yeah, that accurate.
It was funny. Part of me was thinking going into the game, I was like, I wish there was a way that, like, if with offensive line sets you can't do it, but like if we could just shadow him with Quentin Nelson, just move him before it's like everywhere Donald moves, you just move Nelson down the line with him. Like, because I'm just like, I feel like Nelson's your best chance. So, you probably, if you're going to run the ball, run behind Nelson if Nelson plays. I'm assuming Nelson's going to play. I think, they said the back injury is more of just a maintenance thing. So I feel like, again, I think he's going to play. But I think one way to kind of negate it is to run behind Nelson. You want to get into third and manageable so you don't hold the ball too long. That way you don't give him a chance to tee off against Mark Lewinsky or Matt Pryor at defensive end when he's at defensive end.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, I've been watching football since 2005. I know I'm younger than most people who do this, so only 2005 for me. But Aaron Donald's the best defender I've ever seen by far and away. And JJ Watt's peak is probably right there too. But I mean, Aaron Donald's doing things that have never been done at defensive tackle.
It's incredible.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, I think he's almost already over 100 sacks, and he's not even at 30 yet, or he's not even 30 years old yet, and he's a defensive tackle. Right. We're talking so it's tough.
He will hit. If he stays healthy for 17 games this year and does what he typically does, he will hit 100 sacks for his career, and he turns 31 in late 31. May.
Okay, so it's just and the 100 sack means you're a Hall of Famer. Yeah, as a defensive end, by the way. So defensive tackle, you're 100% a Hall of Famer. He could retire right now and be a Hall of Famer. But I mean, we're watching one of the all-time greats still in his prime. So to say that the Colts, like Quentin Nelson, could end up being an all-time great too, but to say that Quentin Nelson's the guy who lock him down, again, it's tough for me because it's just Aaron Donald we know is an all-time great player. Guy who will be in Canton first ballot one day. So when it comes to negating him, there's not really much you can do, but you want to get into third and manageable. You want to get in second and manageable. And you want to run the ball behind Nelson because, that's just kind of how you're going to have to find success in this game.
Yeah. Kyle Stewart, a big fan of the show here, asks if you have any connections, Zach, to the organization to have Nelson's shadow. That would be honestly, that would be awesome. Like that would be
groundbreaking. Just calling that shot. I'm just calling the shot before because I know it's going to happen. That's why I'm saying it on here now.
That would be something to see, though. Like
technically, I'm pretty sure it's a legal motion before every play if you were to try to do it, but that would be funny. Like he's coming out of the huddle and Nelson's just like kind of swerving, like falling, whatever.
Yep. What I don't want to see on Sunday, though, is I believe it was the Rams. They played the Dolphins, I think it was, and they had 3 linemen on Donald. Like there's that famous clip going around where there were 3 offensive linemen blocking Aaron Donald. And it's like, how do you take Donald away? Well, you could try this, but I don't want to see that Sunday. And I
may still beat it, honestly.
Yeah, I think he did beat it once, but I definitely am worried about Donald. One guy the Rams should be worried about, Zach, is DeForest Buckner in the trenches. However, center Brian Allen had a really good game. Sean McVay has praised him this week. Obviously, Brian Allen missed the 2020 season with an injury, but he did receive a game ball for the Sunday night win, was instrumental in helping Matthew Stafford identify blitzes and set up protection. How do you think Allen matches up with what the Colts are trying to do in the trenches, especially in that interior around the center and guard positions?
Yeah, athletically, Brian Allen's one of the better, centers in the league when it comes to that. And that's why he's such a great fit in this Sean McVay offense. So I do love his fit there, and I love how he can help their run game and also their misdirection. And like you said, identifying those blitzes coming. So a big thing that the Colts are going to have to watch out for is, he's going to be able to identify those when the Colts, bring that pressure in the A gap, when they are stacking the line and simulating pressure. He's going to be a big part of identifying that. But I do think where the Colts can kind of win against a player like Allen is Grover Stewart's one of the better run defending defensive tackles with his power and his strength. DeForest Buckner has elite length and power and strength. And I think that's where you can kind of get these zone centers. A guy like Brian Allen, you can kind of get him reeling a little bit, use the pressure to get him in the backfield, throw him off of his zone angle, his zone track that he's going to be on, and kind of disrupt the run game that way. But, he's a very good center, a very solid player. And it was rough for that team when he went down last year. Now with him back, their offense is kind of clicking even more. But yeah, a big part of it's just going to be disrupting his zone tracks early, especially in the run game and even in the play action game. Getting him off those zone tracks with your big defense tackles, and don't let him get to your linebackers, especially if Darius Leonard's out. Yeah,
I want to dive in here to the preview for Sunday's game, but I wanted to ask you. Obviously, you did your first installment of Into the DB Film Room today. I haven't had a chance to watch it yet, but I wanted to ask you here on the show. How did Bo Keys do on Sunday as the starter? And I know I nearly said Bo Peep as I was saying, don't say Bo Peep in my head. But Bo Pete Keys, I'm not a fan of the name, but we'll stick with it. How did he do in his start? Obviously, filling in for Xavier Rhodes in Week 1 from what you saw on film.
Wait, are you joking? Or are you like serious?
What?
He didn't. I don't think he played the defensive snap.
Okay, I remember Jake Arthur saying
no. So what happened?
Yeah, I haven't seen all 22.
So you're not crazy here.
Okay.
Before the game in the Colts press box, the Colts announced him as the starter alongside.
All right, so I'm not crazy. Okay.
Yeah, alongside Rocky Sin and Kenny Moore, and then he didn't play a defensive snap.
Thank you, Colts.
So I don't know why they did it. I don't know
who are they going to try and throw off there?
Are you trying to misdirection your own media? Like I don't really understand.
Okay, I feel crazy because it was like
I thought it was a joke question at first.
No,
cool. Yeah.
I've watched the game 4 times on condensed film. We've talked off air. Like I don't have the international Game Pass, so I don't have all 22 because United States Game Pass is just god awful at this point.
Yeah,
but I never saw him. I haven't had a chance to look at the snap counts, but I never saw him on tape, and I'm like, okay, maybe he had a good game, but I figured Zach would. So how did they handle that? Like, what was the point of saying Bo Pete was going to be the starter, and then I'm assuming it was TJ Carey on the outside?
Yeah, Carey and Rocky Sin played majority of the snaps on the outside. I think Kenny Moore played some outside snaps too in their their base 4-3 looks. But
so we had a pointless article saying Bo Pete Keys is making his first start. I'm gonna have to talk with the Colts PR department.
I really have no clue. I really don't think he played a snap on defense. Like I might be mistaken. He might have played a couple, but from what I saw, I didn't see any snaps on defense for him. It was all Carey, Yasin, and Kenny Moore.
I'm going to look that up as we talk about this. But, dear God, for the people watching live, probably like, this guy's an idiot. But
well, no, we should have just painted it more as you joking is what we should. I thought it was a great joke at first. I was like, wait, he actually
appreciate it. No, Bo Pete Keys did not play a snap, according to unbelievable. Isaiah Rodgers played. Okay.
So, yeah, Isaiah Rodgers played a couple snaps, and he actually got hurt in his couple snaps.
Yeah. So we'll try and transition now. Josh being an absolute dummy. We're going to preview here how the Rams offense matches up with the Colts defense. You've obviously had a chance to dive into the tape. You'll have a film room, I'm sure, coming tomorrow of an opponent. But how does the Colts secondary, obviously probably without Xavier Rhodes this week, match up with that explosive Rams offense? I mean, obviously you're going to have Kenny Moore matched up with Cooper Kupp in the slot. That's one matchup I'm looking forward to. But Robert Woods is, I think, one of the more underrated receivers in football. Tyler Higbee's a good tight end. They have so much talent offensively. How do you match up? How does the Colts secondary match up with those receivers on Sunday?
Honestly, the biggest thing is hoping that the Colts learn from this last experience. And it's great because we can look at it one way and say, yes, the Colts just got killed by a McVay disciple and Shane Waldron from the Seahawks, a guy who's worked with McVay for years. And it kind of brought a very similar scheme to the McVay offense this past week, and it's what shredded the Colts. I mean, Russell Wilson had a 152 passer rating against the Colts here. But you can look at it one way and say, like, oh, gosh, now we have the better version of him coming up. But you can also look at another way and say they just got a whole week of practice or a whole game of practice against that type of scheme. The biggest way for them to match up and the biggest thing they can do as a secondary and as a defensive whole is you got to diagnose this misdirection so much better than what they did against the Seahawks. The Seahawks were killing them with a horizontal game plan. I mean, a lot of quick screens, a lot of flats, a lot of receiver reverses, fake wide receiver reverses, counter trays, stuff like that. That was just the Colts defense was running. Half of them were running one way, the other half was running the other way, and that's how Chris Carson and the Seahawks run game, I think, had the second highest yards per carry against the Colts defense under Eberflus. For a lead back, that is. So it's just they got kind of shredded on the ground, and that's what led to those big plays in the pass game. So a big thing is just understanding the misdirection, stuff like that, and then just playing better on those shot plays. That's really the biggest thing. It's hard to say, matchup wise with the Colts DBs because the Colts DBs don't play, cornerback 1 on wide receiver 1, cornerback 2 on wide receiver 2. They play sides, so Rocky Sin will be on one side, Xavier Rhodes or TJ Carey will be on the other side. So it'll be a little bit of, guys seeing different players throughout the game, but they just have to be better with their zone integrity, with their zone principles and stuff like that, and just not biting so much on the different action you're going to see, because you're going to see so much misdirection, so much window dressing in that backfield. The key is not falling for it, and
right.
At least fall for it less than what they did this past week. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah. And, honestly, going back through, I think we kind of talked about it off air. It just, they were close on all those plays. It wasn't like, if you've watched the Rams week 1 game, like Cooper Kupp was, I think, 30 yards behind the Bears secondary on one touch. It wasn't like that. But, the first touchdown to Lockett, I didn't have a huge issue with. It wasn't like the Colts were completely embarrassed. Obviously, the Lockett touchdown there late in the half, it just a mess, an absolute mess.
If you guys want to see breakdowns of those plays, go check out the film thing that me and Hag just did. We broke down those plays in detail, and where the first one it's maybe not Willis completely. The second one it's probably half Willis and half the defensive call in that situation. So we go into a lot more detail than what we could go through here without the film. But I mean they were right there on those plays. I mean, I do think legitimately definitely on the first touchdown, and especially on that last touchdown that Kenny Moore got beat by DK. If it's not Russell Wilson at quarterback, those aren't touchdowns.
Really?
But Russell Wilson's your quarterback. So, probably the best deep ball thrower I've ever seen, especially when it comes to touch. When it comes to touch down the field. I mean, that first one to Lockett, I don't know how many other quarterbacks could make that throw. He threw it to a spot, and Lockett made a great adjustment. On the other one, Kenny Moore was half an inch away from breaking that up. It's just Wilson put it in the right spot. So maybe on the deep one to Lockett at the end of the half, not anyone, but more quarterbacks could have made it. But I legit think two of those 3 touchdowns that we saw through the air, Wilson and maybe a couple other guys could have made that play.
I am curious, though, if I'm remembering correctly, did they have any safety help in the middle of the field on that Metcalf touchdown?
So it was actually a really great design. And again, we break down that one as well, me and Hag. And basically what it was it was off-man coverage the Colts had. And I think they were going to free release the seam, the Colts were, because they had that safety in the middle of the field. So they had the closed middle of the field. They had one safety in the middle. But he basically had to choose between the free release tight end going up the seam or Metcalf coming over the middle. So whatever one he wasn't going to choose is where Wilson was going to attack. And Kenny kind of played it a little bit leaning too far to the outside when he had another corner there. So he should have been like half an inch more inside, and he would have broken that up. But he recovered well, and he got his hand right in between Metcalf's hands. Metcalf just made a great catch, and Wilson put it in the right spot. So it's really just a game of inches or a game of centimeters even, and Russell Wilson being, top 3-4 quarterback in football.
I know you tweeted this out, and then we'll obviously get back to Sunday's preview, but the touchdown to Gerald Everett on the crossing route there in the red zone, that's on Okereke, correct? Just based off of how Leonard reacted, it was like, dude, where's my middle of the field help? Like, why are you carrying that guy? You should be taking the guy across the field.
Yeah, I would assume it was cover 2. It was definitely cover 2 zone. I don't know if it was a Tampa 2 principle, because the way Okereke kind of turned and chased that tight end going up.
It looked like it a little bit. But why would you be chasing in the red zone like
that? Exactly. So I want to say that he should have kept that middle integrity, especially with Leonard not following his guy. Mm-hmm. If Leonard would have came with Everett there, then I would have thought, okay, it was more of match principles and stuff like that. But because everyone else kind of dropped to a spot and Okereke followed a man, that it was supposed to be a spot drop cover 2 zone, just a typical cover 2 zone, and Okereke just thought it was match coverage and he'd followed the seam. So it just looked like a blown coverage over the middle, but coverages are hard. I can dissect it the best I can just from what I see. But
it's tough if you don't know the call.
And honestly, I'll be honest, that's why with Pro Football Focus, when they say the Colts are the most zone team in the league, it's they probably are, but
you don't know for sure.
There's so much match, man zone match coverages that are thrown and so much like that are thrown across the league that it's really, really hard to tell unless you're in the room with these coaches. So, my best guess is it was a cover 2 spot drop and Okereke thought it was match and he carried that seam right into the safety and then left that middle of the field wide open. But it could have been something else. Maybe everyone else was mistaken, or maybe a couple other players were mistaken as well. I don't know.
So obviously the Colts dealt with the disciple in Shane Waldron last week. But now they get the Grandmaster. They get Sean McVay this week. It should be a great matchup. I mean, I know some fans and some media members are generally down on Matt Eberflus for some reason. I think he's a fine defensive coordinator. Again, I don't know the calls that he makes. I could just see what the defense does. But what are you most concerned with Sunday offensively with the Rams, whether it be a concept, a player, whatever? What are you most concerned with when it comes to that Rams offense on Sunday?
Well, it's Matthew Stafford. I mean, obviously you can always say the quarterback, but
right. But we've
seen this offense, basically the same offense for the most part, go to the Super Bowl with Jared Goff at the helm, and the defense wasn't even as good as what it is now back then. They went to the Super Bowl with Jared Goff at the helm. What are they going to do with a guy who's been fringe top 10 with, top 10 quarterback in the league with terrible pieces around him? I think that's the recipe for disaster. We saw it again on Sunday night where I was just talking about how Russell Wilson had a 152 passer rating. I think Matt Stafford was the only guy in the league with a higher passer rating than him.
Yeah, I think he was honestly like 4 decimal points away from a perfect rating, which is like you can't get
3 incomplete passes and 3 touchdowns. And Russell Wilson was around the same, but still. So I think that scares me the most. Just that marriage, that perfect marriage of Stafford and McVay, and that's why they traded so much for him because they knew that he could be kind of that last piece there. And going back to kind of what you're saying about Eberflus, there is, I like Eberflus. I think he's a good defensive coordinator. I do disagree with a lot of things that he does. But the biggest thing that kind of hurt me about, not hurt me, but upset me about last week is when you're playing against a top quarterback, you can't sit in cover 2 zone all game. You really can't. You can't. I mean, you have to throw in more match. You're throwing more cover 3. He did that in the second half a little bit more, and they had more success as a defense. If they want to sit in cover 2 against Matthew Stafford and this McVay offense, it's going to be a pretty similar result that they had this past week. Cover 2 is a fine defense. It does certain things well, but when you have a quarterback who can attack those outside seams, who's willing to take the flats, and then he can hit the occasional deep shot, and they can throw verticals at your 2 safeties, that's really just a recipe for disaster. And I think if they want to sit in cover 2 again in this one, you're gonna have some issues in defense. So that's kind of where I am. Eberflus, good defensive coordinator, he adjusts well. Please run some more cover 3 in this game though, or even a couple man looks. Just to bring variety to your defense in this game, because if you just give Matthew Stafford that same look, you're going to get shredded.
It feels like in today's NFL, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it feels like most defenses that play too high, quarterbacks know how to handle that at this point. It's not like it was when cover 2 was really first introduced and teams were really starting to throw the ball a little more. I think I read a great article last night from Doug Farrar of Touchdown Wire. He said the only quarterback that really struggles, and this may floor you, against cover 2 and 2 high safeties is Aaron Rodgers. That's it. The numbers are insane with Rodgers against single high and against 2 high. And that was certainly frustrating to see the Colts just sit in 2 high there in the first half and watch Wilson just absolutely pick them apart. And I know some people are down on Stafford because of his time with Detroit, but that's a damn good quarterback. And I think you and I are on the same page. So I'm worried about that come Sunday.
Yeah, and the thing is, what Russell Wilson did a great job, and what Waldron drew up in the game plan, which was genius, was we're going to pepper those flats. The Colts were spot dropping, and they weren't spot dropping where their corners were in the flats. They were spot dropping basically at 5, 6, 7 yards, and they were giving the flats, which is fine on maybe 3rd and 10, but on 2nd and 8, or 2nd and 7. If you give up the flat can turn into a first down easy. So what they were doing was Wilson and Waldron, they were just peppering those flats constantly, which were getting the corners to kind of squeak up a little bit, and then they start hitting them. Then you hit them with the deep shots, and it was just like Keenan says here. But it's layups and threes. That's basically what they were hitting, layups constantly, hitting layups, and then they got the open threes, and they made their threes.
you essentially you rock them to sleep. It's like you're going to get downhill, and then we're going to hit you. We're going to hit you, and we're going to make it count. And that's the key. And I think
We got to shout out the Facebook people here. We got Kyle with the like here, and then Stephanie Carney.
That's my mom. Thank you, Mom. I appreciate it. I hope she missed the part where her son was an absolute idiot on the internet. So,
well, does she follow the Colts? Would she even know? She was like, "There's no way there's someone named Bo Peep on this team."
Oh, she knows. I've talked about it because I brought up the Bo Peep and Bo Peep. I mean, my oldest son likes Toy Story, and there's Bo Peep, and it's wild. But layups and threes. As the guy says here, and I think that's the same thing that's going to happen on Sunday unless Eberflus goes into his bag of tricks and kind of mixes it up and does what he did in the second half against Seattle. Because if he doesn't, I think it's just going to be that much worse. So so we'll see. But defensively, how does this Rams defense match up with Indianapolis? I am obviously concerned about Ramsey and Aaron Donald. But yes, no, Mom, that was not about you. That was about me being an idiot. You missed it earlier. It's fine. It's gosh, she's got me thrown off here. This is great podcasting. No,
about the Rams defense.
The Rams defense. And it's not just Ramsey and Donald. I mean, obviously they lost John Johnson, and the name is escaping me, Troy Hill, to the Browns in the offseason. Yep. But that front seven, I think, is very underrated. Sebastian Joseph Day, I know that earlier in the offseason I had written he's fine. But that week one performance, I thought he was really good, allows the Rams to do a lot up front. What's the biggest concern for you with this defense coming into yes, Kyle, she did. What is the biggest concern for this defense from the Colts standpoint going against Los Angeles defense in week 2?
So they're actually a fascinating defense because they have Raheem Morris, who they brought over from Atlanta, who I thought did an excellent job down the stretch. And that was my number one target. If Eberflus were to leave for a head coaching job, I was like, please bring in Raheem Morris. He did great with the Falcons down the stretch last year as their interim head coach, better than anything Dan Quinn had done in years with that team. But it's really cool that basically what they did with him was Raheem Morris comes in from the same kind of coaching tree as Matt Eberflus, that cover 2, Tampa 2. He was a defensive back coach for a lot of those Lovie Smith teams, Raheem Morris, that is. So that's always been what he's run, but they kind of told him to do Brandon Staley's scheme in a way. I don't know that they really definitely told him you have to do this, but they basically said incorporate a lot of what Brandon Staley did. Which was more, I think it's more like cover 3, a lot of multiple looks, a lot of a lot of disguised coverages. And I believe it was Pro Football Focus that put it out, say that the 2 defenses that disguised their coverages the most in week 1 were the Chargers and the Rams.
There's a connection there. So.
Yeah, it's not what he's typically done, but it looks like he is kind of bringing, at least parts of that Brandon Staley scheme to what he does. So it's cool. It's like Raheem Morris. You want to study that Tampa 2, you want to study that kind of stuff, but he's kind of growing and he's kind of adding more to his repertoire. And I think he's a great defensive coordinator. So when you bring him and then you have a really talented defense with, in my opinion, the 2 top defenders in all of football. And then you have a couple of Sebastian Joseph Day is a very solid player. I think Kenny Young had a really, really good game in week 1, 2 at linebacker. That's actually when my article drops tomorrow about a defensive player to watch.
Okay,
that's who it's going to be.
I like that.
I think Kenny Young had a great game. And then Darius Williams at quarter on the other side. Very, very solid season. It's a good defense. I think really what you got to do is you got to focus on running the ball. And I know
Bears
people
had success.
Yeah, and I'm not saying, get to the point where it's run the damn ball and be like that, but we saw a lot of situations where Carson Wentz was in 3rd and long last week, third and not manageable. And you can't get into that situation against this team because then you got Aaron Donald teeing off, and then you got Jalen Ramsey able to sit on those first down markers. And when he can sit on routes, it's going to be a pick the other way. So you got to get into 3rd and short. You got to make this game manageable. And I think kind of control the ball a little bit. I think a big part of that is going to be, running behind Quentin Nelson if he plays, and running behind Eric Fisher if he plays, running behind the left side of that line, kind of keeping the ball a little bit away from those 2 superstars. And so you still take your shots down the field. You can build off of those run plays. You can do play action. You can take your deep shots. But last week, my thought process going in was Carson Wentz was going to have to throw the ball to keep up. and kind of be the hero ball going into the game, which he ended up having to be, but he just couldn't make the plays. Yeah. This week, I think the key game plan is don't make it be the hero in this one. Hope your defense bounces back, run the ball, be in control, and hopefully Wentz can be more efficient and more just effective in less throws and less forced throws where it had, 3rd and 10, 3rd and 12, you're going to have to throw it. You don't want to get to this point where the defense knows if you're going to run or throw because that's when they can tee off on you and make some big plays.
The one thing I found pretty interesting in week 1, yes, Sam, this will be uploaded to the podcast channel afterwards. So thank you for tuning in here and asking a question. We sure appreciate it. But no, week 1, Rams Bears. I noticed Jalen Ramsey around the line of scrimmage a lot, and that's kind of what he did at times at Florida State coming out before the Jaguars drafted him and said, you're a boundary corner at this point. Raheem Morris had also said, I don't know if you had a chance to listen, but he was on Flying Coach, the podcast with Peter Schrager and Sean McVay this summer. And, awesome. Peter Schrager had asked him, he was also on with Mike Tomlin. Those two are great friends. So that was a hell of an episode. But Peter Schrager had asked him, how do you plan on utilizing Jalen Ramsey? And he said, we're gonna kind of incorporate him into the defense as thank you for listening from New Zealand there, Sam. But he was going to incorporate him and use him like a Rondé Barber from that Tampa system. So I think you're going to see Jalen make more plays around the line of scrimmage. I think he's going to be more aggressive coming downhill. I do agree with you. He's one of the best defenders in football. I think you said he's number 2 right behind Aaron Donald, which I don't have any qualms with. But, as we said earlier in the show, can't avoid him, can't stay away from him. But it'll be interesting. I would like to see Indianapolis run the ball more. Chicago had a lot of success, especially early on. David Montgomery ripped off a really long run, I think, on the 3rd play from scrimmage against the Rams Sunday night. But, I don't want to see Carson Wentz have to play hero ball in this game. The one thing I wanted to ask you, though, about the Colts, I forget who tweeted out the numbers, but you had quote tweeted it and had a comment about it. 44% of the targets Sunday from Carson Wentz went to running backs, and I think 42% went to receivers. Now, obviously, I think that was a lot of that may have been taking what was there in comeback mode, but how concerning is that for you moving forward, knowing that maybe these receivers right now without T.Y. Hilton are struggling to create separation?
Yeah, I think that was something going into the year because I think it might have been Fan Question Friday where somebody asked if the safety room is the weakest position or cornerback room is the weakest position room in the roster. And I actually said receiver in my opinion. And I know that would be to disagreement of a lot of fans because I think we kind of get caught up in the excitement for young players and we kind of misevaluate where they actually are currently. And what we're looking at right now, this receiver room is if you had to pick a guy who can consistently get open or at least mostly get open, it's Zack Pascal. Besides that, you really don't have that guy. Michael Pittman still hopefully can take that step this year, but he didn't really show it in week 1. And there were some times last year where, he had inconsistency with drops, inconsistency with getting open. Paris Campbell just never hasn't played. And then all the other guys behind him just haven't really played, in real NFL games. So it's kind of just Zack Pascal right now. And we saw that last week when Pascal had a good game. So who's that guy who can just get open for you? Like let's say Jalen Ramsey follows Zack Pascal, which would be hilarious, but let's just say that's what happens. Who's going to be getting open for you in this offense and not schemed open? I mean, saying like one-on-one, man-to-man has to beat coverage.
It's got to be Paris, right? It's got to be.
Maybe. Like we've seen 8 games out of him in his career through this is the 3rd season. So it's just. How much NFL cornerback play has he really faced to where you can say like this guy can beat an NFL corner or Michael Pittman same way. Like he was the 3rd option for most of last year in the pass game, or maybe even the 4th option at sometimes. Like how much could you really say like, oh, this is my guy who could beat someone? Now I think he can be that way, but is he there right now? And when he needs to be there right now for this team to have success, I don't know. So I do think there's some concern with the receiver group. I'm not going to overreact to 1 week, but I think, the 1 week added to my already concerns going into the year. And this isn't even me saying they should have added another veteran. I think when they brought T.Y. Hilton, going with young guys behind him is perfect because, again, evaluation year. Let's see what these kids actually have. But I think there is some concern if you're looking for production right away, because these guys have never really been asked to be those top guys, and we don't know if they're going to be that. The only one I feel pretty good about right now, and I know there's a sect of Colts player that doesn't like him, is Zack Pascal.
I don't understand why people don't like him. That man does everything you could ever want in a receiver.
It's kind of valuation versus evaluation. I think everyone has the same evaluation of him. Solid player, can get open, wins over the middle. It's just the valuation. Some people will see him as a wide receiver 1 with everything he does. Others will see him as a wide receiver 4 or 5 because he's more of a special. He could be a special teams guy, and he's not super explosive. So I think that's just the case of valuation versus evaluation. But as of right now, he's the top receiver, top healthy receiver on the roster.
And he might be the best run blocking receiver in football.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think he's right up there with a guy like a Juju Smith-Schuster. And ironically, both are slot receivers that are physical and aren't the most explosive. But Zack Pascal, I don't understand. I know you did a good job of explaining what it could be. I still don't understand why some people seem to be so down on him. Like, he is just uber consistent. He's tough as nails, does everything the offense can want. I wanted to ask you about Eric Fishner, as we have a comment here from Kyle Stewart. Yeah, I think Zach and I are in agreement with you. I think Zach at this point is the Zack Pascal fan club president. So I mean,
I covered him in Washington that one. It was funny.
That's right.
I was covering Washington that year, and I went to one training camp. It was the first time I ever got to go and kind of cover a training camp. Zack Pascal is one of the receivers out there. He was their main guy, like kick return guy and like punt coverage guy. I think he got cut at the end of training camp and then went to the Titans. But yeah, I kind of covered him in DC, and then he came out here to Indy right when I came out, and it's been great watching him. And then also, I live in Virginia, so him at ODU, I was following his career the whole time. He's from Virginia Beach. He's only from like 3 hours away from me. He was in high school, so. Just a guy I kind of been following for a long time.
Yeah. I think he's it's Kyle Stewart here. I think he's asking you for a link to the Zack Pascal fan club. We may need to get shirts. We may need to get shirts made at this point.
I got too many shirts made of Colts players right now. I got the Dio one. I got Run the Damn Ball, just more ironically, and then I've got the Kenny Moore shirt that doesn't fit me because I put on weight. So I don't know, man. I got.
You're not alone there, man. You're not alone.
I mean, we are getting paid this week, so maybe I should put some money into it.
No, I'm a big Pascal fan, and you were the one that kind of turned me on to him probably about 3-4 years ago. He's a really solid all around receiver, and I wish he would get more recognition nationally. I think it was I want to say it was Nate Tice. Gave him some love on Twitter. One of the
smartest guys, and
if you're not listening to Robert Mays and Nate Tice, their podcast, the Athletic Football Show, you're doing us all. You're doing it wrong. I'm a smarter fan for that. What's Kyle say here? It's us doing everything we can to turn.
That could be to either one of us.
I don't think people know that, like, I'm born and raised in Pittsburgh, so I have black and gold in me, but we'll leave that go. But no, I wanted to ask you about Eric Fisher and expectations for him this week. Should he play? It looks like he's trending in the right direction. I would assume tomorrow he practices in full, but to expect him to go out there and be the silver bullet to fix everything that's wrong with the Colts offensive line after 1 week, I think is setting everyone up for failure. So, you've watched Fisher throughout the years. I know you watched a ton of him after the Colts signed him. What do you expect from him knowing he's coming back from such a significant injury?
Yeah, it kind of seems like this is what I've been saying. Oh, Nick Gates being carted off for the Giants right now. I think that's their left guard, right? Yeah.
Actually, I think that's their center.
He moved over to left guard tonight because they started Billy Price.
Yeah, they started Billy Price. That's right. That's not good.
I hate seeing that. But yeah, so I kind of feel like I'm shitting on a lot of Colts players here tonight because I'm going to be like, oh,
you're good.
Colts fans bring it down. But I feel like we've kind of built up the mystique of Eric Fisher a lot. Julian,
that's my kid. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I figured, but I was like, who's Julian?
I got the family all up in the comments tonight. This is a fun night,
Yeah.
So,
but Eric Fisher, I feel like we've kind of are holding up to the super high regard because he's supposed to like save the left tackle position for us and save the offensive line. Where more so when I watched this film, my takeaway was he's going to be an improvement in run blocking over Costanzo, but probably lesser in pass protection. So when you factor in like Eric Fisher's a good athlete who can do some good things in pass pro, but I think his biggest issue throughout his whole career has been his anchoring and how he does with power rushes.
Yeah.
When you factor that in with a guy who's also coming off of an Achilles injury, I do think there's going to be some struggles there, especially when going against some power rushes. So if Sebastian Joseph Day is lining up across from him, or Aaron Donald lines up across from him, which I imagine they'll put Donald on Pryor all game if they really want to have success. But I think there will be some struggles. I think expectation-wise, the biggest thing that I'm kind of going to be taking away and the biggest thing I'll be watching for is, can you be an improvement over Julian Davenport? That's all I care about. Like, I
think the safe answer is yes, but I don't want to get ahead of myself because Davenport, that was awful. Like,
it was
awful. But I am curious to see how he anchors coming off the Achilles injury and if that's in the back of his mind. It coming off of injuries, it's always going to be an issue with a player early on. And man, I could totally see Raheem Morris just being like, hey, AD, you're going to rush over Eric Fisher all game and just bull rush the hell out of him. And that's terrifying. But I don't even want to touch Matt Pryor because I have a shrine of Braden Smith, candles lit, like, please be healthy, or else, I mean, this could be a bloodbath. And that
is hilarious though. Like Braden Smith, I said it on Twitter, but I've watched Braden Smith's whole NFL career. I watched him as a prospect, obviously, as well.
Yeah.
I think honestly, outside of maybe the playoff game his rookie year, this is the worst game I've ever seen Braden Smith play.
By far. And I was in full agreement with you. Like there's not a game that's close aside from that rookie year playoff game. Like
and the rookie year playoff game was against JJ Watt too. So it's like
it's understandable. This one was against Darrell Taylor and
Alton Robinson, Benson Mayowa, like good players, but not JJ Watt. JJ Watt, who was still towards the end of his prime in 2018. Man, 7 pressures allowed, and I think last year in 550 snaps or whatever, allowed 0 sacks and 1 quarterback hit. To Darrell Taylor alone on Sunday, he had 1 sack allowed and 2 quarterback hits.
Yeah.
So
and look,
only 48 snaps.
Yeah. And Darrell Taylor was a guy I liked coming out of Tennessee. He was going to need a few years, but he looked like Pro Bowl caliber. And that's stunning because maybe Braden Smith was dealing with a foot injury going into that game. Yeah. And we didn't know about it until after the game. But, Braden, it looked like someone else was wearing Braden Smith jersey. And what's Kyle say here? I would rather they take the chance.
Kyle.
100%. I don't want to see Matt Pryor unless it's like an extra tight end type.
I'm fine with him at guard. I think he's fine at guard.
Yeah,
but when you put him at a tackle, like I feel like anyone on the team can move better than him.
I know this would never happen, but if that were the case, I'd be Carson Wentz going into Frank Reich's office like, Frank, I can't do this again. I just dealt with this last year. Come on, man. Like,
no, not him again, please.
Yeah,
please. Did you watch the Cardinals film? Jalen was getting killed in that one. I don't want to be that way.
I can't do that. I'm already coming off my own injury, but I would rather give Will Fries a shot at that point. Honestly, what would it hurt? I mean,
Fries can move better. He's more technical.
Yeah,
he'll get bull rushed more, but Pryor can't move. Like it was funny. I'm the guy who said Davenport couldn't move, and Davenport can't move at all. No. But he could run circles around Pryor. Pryor's just a huge body, but his blocking style is basically like, let me get in the way.
And I still don't know what they really saw in him when they traded a draft pick for him, other than the position versatility. That's the only thing that I can see.
I think it was really just let's get another guy with some experience in here.
Because I was sitting there, I was like, are there any connections on this offensive staff to last year other than, I think is it Press Taylor?
Press Taylor, and I guess Wentz technically could have said something good about him, but that's probably it.
Maybe, but it's like you could have waited and signed someone, I don't want to see Matt Pryor Sunday. I'm terrified.
We will though. We will.
We definitely will at this point with the luck that the Colts have on the injury front. That leads us to our last point here, our predictions. Please do not hold us accountable for this unless we are 100% correct. But I know that last week I had made a prediction about the Steelers-Bills game on Twitter for my other job, and I predicted the Bills big, and obviously that did not happen, and I've been hearing about it since Sunday afternoon. So please do not hold me accountable to this. They are just predictions. They're for fun. I'm going Rams big in this one just because of what the Colts are dealing with. I'll probably say 33-17. I'm going big again. But yes, there's my father now. Jesus H. We're off the rails here, Zach. You got to get to bed. But there's my
brothers or sisters that could jump in here too.
I'm sure my brother will jump in here at this point. Yes, I did go against the Steelers. Thank you. But yeah, I've got Rams big, 33-17. I think there's way too many injuries to go against the Colts here. But who do you have in this game?
Yeah, I'll say 34-20 Rams. I think I guess that's technically not close or anything. It's still a 14-point game, but I think we'll be hearing a lot of the moral victories that maybe, it could be 27-20 going to the fourth and they just kind of pull away there. I think the Colts will keep it a little closer than what we're saying, even if the guys are missing, but ultimately it's going to come down to the Rams are a super, super talented team, and the Colts are going to be coming into this game pretty shorthanded. So I just, get healthy. If a guy is questionable or at the point where they might be playing injured, sit him out this week and get ready for that Titans game week 3, because those division games are huge.
That should be the focus. I mean, it's okay to go and get absolutely smoked in week 2 against the Rams. Like it's fine. You don't want to get smoked and be shorthanded against the Titans. I never want to say wave the white flag, concede, anything like that. But if it's even iffy, it's too early in the season. It's an extra week long this year. Just, I know this is a Bills analogy, but circle the wagons, bring everyone back in, and it's kind of regroup. I am terrified though that come Sunday morning, Braden Smith's going to be inactive, Eric Fisher's going to be inactive, and we're going to have Julian Davenport, Matt Pryor at bookend tackles against the Rams front seven.
If it were up to me, I'd put Quentin Nelson at tackle in that situation. But
that may be something for what is it? Fan Question Friday.
There we go. You're going to ask the question for us.
I may jump in and ask that question. So, who will you be joined with tomorrow? Will it be Jake or Andrew?
I don't know yet. I'll just pick one of them tomorrow. I'll jump into the chat and be like, I choose you. I choose Jake.
Jake, I don't care. Yeah, Jake, I don't care what responsibilities you may have in your family. I need you on Fan Question Friday.
Date night with the wife. Just join on your phone. Just join on your phone while you're out there with her. Like
football season, sir. Date night. No, Jake's busy man right now, and hopefully we'll have him back on the show here. But I'm looking forward, Zach, to talking about a Colts win come next week, and both of us having egg on our face and kind of fitting the trend here. But we will see. I know there's a lot of concerns that we have, but you will be back here on this channel tomorrow night, Fan Question Friday. I think you guys are going to kick that off at 8:30, roughly. 8 o'clock. Yep. So I'm sure you will have you will put out an inquiry for questions on Twitter. We will have something on Facebook. So please get your questions in, and I'm sure Zach and whomever he's joined with tomorrow night will do their best to answer ahead of Week 2's matchup between the Rams and Colts at Lucas Oil Stadium. That hopefully is a closer game than Zach and I project. With that will end the Thursday night show. Just a quick shout out to my family. Thank you. Really appreciate it. I know it's a live stream. Yeah, you're throwing me off here, but Zach, appreciate you, man. I know you got to get to bed. You got an early day tomorrow. Great work as always this week. I've said this on Twitter. I learned something from you every time you do a film room. So we will see how it goes Sunday as Matt weighs in here. Gates lower leg fracture. Not great. So yes, thank you, Dad. Appreciate you. So we're going to get out of here before this gets off the rails even further. With that, we'll talk to you guys later.